single glance, a tightened jaw, a step taken just a fraction too quickly. In the world of the monarchy, these are not just moments, they are messages. And according to royal insiders, a message of seismic proportions was just sent from the very top of the throne. This is Royal Report 24/7, and what we're about to dissect didn't happen in a private meeting or a leaked letter. It happened in plain sight, and if the whispers are correct, it signals a breaking point. Subscribe now, because the carefully constructed unity of the new reign is showing a crack no one can ignore. Share this video. The palace will never comment, but the sources are speaking. The scene, a recent royal engagement. King Charles III and Queen Camilla, performing their public duties as they have 1,000 times before. Smiles, waves, the accepted small talk. But insiders who work closely with the royal couple's staff are telling a far different story about the atmosphere behind the scenes. The phrase being used is a pressure cooker. And the source of the pressure? Not the protesting Republicans, not the endless diary of duties, but the very woman by his side, Queen Camilla. For decades, the narrative has been one of redemption, patience, and hard-won acceptance. Charles, the devoted lover who waited a lifetime for his queen. Camilla, the misunderstood strength, the loyal companion who endured public hatred to finally claim her rightful place. It's a story that, against all odds, the palace machinery managed to sell to a skeptical public. But insiders now claim that story is fracturing under the weight of reality and the relentless glare of the crown. Sources close to the household allege that King Charles has reached a limit, a quiet, seething limit, with what are being described as Camilla's operational methods. This isn't about love or affection, they stress. This is about power, influence, and a version of events that Charles is reportedly starting to believe is endangering his legacy. The trigger? A series of recent decisions and public perceptions that have, according to these whispers, been heavily steered by the Queen's camp, leaving the king feeling sidelined in his own reign. That let's be specific. Reports point to the aggressive slimming down of the monarchy. While this was always Charles's vision, insiders suggest the execution has taken a brutal, personal turn under Camilla's purported influence. The distancing from Prince Andrew, the effective exile of the Sussexes, the intense focus on a core team built around the Waleses and themselves, all politically astute moves. But the coldness of the process, the lack of what one source called the Windsor grace, is being laid at Camilla's door. There are claims she advocates for a harder line, a more corporate ruthlessness that sits uncomfortably with Charles's more sentimental, albeit distant, sense of family duty. Then there are the stories, the narratives that emerge in the press, the leaks. For years, a steady drip of reports has portrayed Camilla as the modernizing force, the pragmatic powerhouse propping up a sometimes indecisive king. She's the one making the tough calls, streamlining the court, getting things done. Charles, in some of these accounts, is the dreamy philosopher king, needing her grounding touch. This framing has been brilliant for Camilla's image rehabilitation. But what if the king has grown to resent it? Insiders claim a recent, private confrontation brought this to a head. Following a particularly glowing profile of the Queen's steely leadership in a major publication, a profile that subtly diminished Charles's executive role, a tense exchange occurred. While the exact words are known only to them, the sentiment, as conveyed by a staffer, was crystal clear. Charles allegedly felt the narrative had crossed a line, that the portrayal of him as reliant on her political savvy undermined the sovereign's authority. The phrase reported from that meeting, from the king's side, was a simple, furious, enough. Enough with the lies. It wasn't, the source clarifies, an accusation of her personally lying to the press, but a rebuke of the false, diminished portrait of the monarchy she was allegedly allowing, and perhaps encouraging, to be painted, with her as its indispensable architect. This taps into the oldest wound of all, the shadow of Diana. Charles's reign was always going to be compared to his first wife's memory. His great project was to build a legacy separate from that tragedy, to be defined by his own work. The fear, as these insiders portray it, is that he is now being defined by his second wife's narrative, one of a capable woman rescuing a faltering institution. For a man who waited 73 years for the top job, that is an unbearable irony. And what of Camilla? Her sources naturally tell a different story. They portray a queen desperately trying to implement her husband's wishes, to be the tough shield so he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. They say she absorbs the criticism so he doesn't have to, that every hard decision is ultimately his. They claim the power behind the throne trope is a sexist media relic, unfairly punishing a woman for being competent. But the body language analysts and former palace aides are now scrutinizing every appearance. That moment he walked just a pace ahead of her, not checking to see if she followed. The way her smile at him during an event wasn't returned with eye contact. The reports of separate offices operating with less communication. These are the Morse code signals of palace tension. They're the only proof we will ever get. The stakes could not be higher. This isn't a marital spat. It's a constitutional crisis in embryo. The king and queen are the dual pillars of this slimmed-down monarchy. If there is discord at the very heart of that foundation, the entire structure becomes unstable. It fuels the Sussexes' claims of a toxic, manipulative institution. It empowers the critics who say the monarchy is just a soap opera. And it leaves Prince William and Catherine, the future, watching the present with a sense of profound anxiety, forced to navigate a court potentially split into two camps. Has King Charles finally said enough to the woman who was once his only solace? Or is this a temporary storm, the inevitable friction of two powerful personalities adjusting to the crushing weight of the crown? The palace walls give nothing away, but the silence from within, insiders say, is the loudest sound of all. If you believe the real story is never in the official statement, but in the silence between them, you need to be here with us. This is the work of Royal Report 24/7, connecting the whispers, reading the signs, and bringing you the story the palace can't tell. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. The reign of Charles III has entered its most critical phase, and it's happening behind closed doors. Like this video if you're seeing the signs too, and share it. Is this a king reclaiming his narrative, or a partnership under unimaginable strain? The next public appearance will be scrutinized like never before, and we'll be watching 24/7.